Magic the Gathering can be a polarizing game, even for the people who play it every single day. There is plenty to complain about, it seems, on a near constant basis. But it seems like we're all still shuffling up and drawing 7 cards. We asked the community, are you overall positive or negative with Magic the Gathering right now?
You have stuff like Marvel coming out. You have all of these massive IP crossovers. It kind of feels like even though Magic the Gathering has been around for 30 years, it's just the beginning of something big going on over here. And so we're going to talk to you about all the stuff that's good. We're going to talk to you about some of the stuff that's bad. Make sure to stick around to the end of the video because we're going to talk about how each of us personally feel about the game. And it's not all bad. So if you think it's going to be all doom and gloom over here, well, you've got another thing coming. Let's talk about our channel sponsors, Card Conduit. It's a great spot to sell singles. That is a wonderful website if you are looking to save your time and ship out some cards and get a little bit of cash for the holiday season. Also, Dragon Shield is one of our top sponsors. Those are the best sleeves for protecting all of your beautiful cardboard cutouts.
We'll talk about them a little bit more later, but let's just jump right into this, Jake. We've asked on the community page, we've asked in the Discord, where are you at with MTG right now? Because everybody seems to have at least one thing to complain about, but even among the people complaining, there are just a ton of different things to discuss. And so I wanted to try and circle the wagons here as we get to the end of 2023 and see where everybody's at, because like you said in the opener, it does feel like we're at the tippy top of the mountain, but we're only halfway up.
Yeah, it's funny and it's interesting because a lot of the responses today are going to come from patrons and stuff like that. But I was just hanging out with a group of people that I don't normally play Magic with just yesterday, and all of them, like, generally very positive about the game. They all had kind of the general consensus that because we were drafting Commander Masters, we were all like, wow, this is a really stacked drafting experience. This seems like really overpowered decks. But everybody was having a really good time. There were people there that were excited about Standard. There were people there that were excited about Modern, and then obviously there were Commander players. Everybody was playing Commander Masters. So as we dive into these responses today, make sure to keep in mind that just these responses are not an overall indicator of how everyone feels, so take it with a grain of salt.
Jake, I think that's a bigger overarching point that is a really good one, is that the vocal minority is going to be the ones that everybody hears. And so you've got a very different experience from the internet to playing on a convention floor. Let's take it back to the summit. We were just in Salt Lake City a couple of weeks ago. We were in Vegas a few weeks before that. And I'll tell you, one of the main things I learned, I hadn't really gotten out to an LGS or a convention in a long time, like since COVID long, y'all. I've moved a bunch and there just hasn't been the opportunity. And so walking back into that world after years away, one of my main takeaways, and I kind of have been like doodling a video out for this about one of the major things I learned from conventions this year, it's that people sitting there playing about it, the complaints are just like, oh yeah, that's crazy. Okay, let's talk about that. Oh man, I love that commander. Dude, that card, wait, let me read that card. I haven't seen that card before. Oh yeah, dude, did you hear about the announcement? Are you a Jurassic Park fan? Oh yeah, do you want to? And that is all we're talking about in person. And I feel like people who are, I'm talking about myself, chronically online, always on my phone, literally plugged in at every moment it's an issue. I feel like
are the Matrix.
Dude, we get a skewed view of the reality of what people are like who play this game. Take it all the way back to college. Jake, we were trying to put Armored Ascensions on Golden Glow Moths, and it was fun. And that's what MTG was.
It was just fun, man.
Right.
Yeah, I thought Golden Glow Moth was going to be this great thing that if you could protect it, you would gain so much life. And by the end of the game, oh man, they wouldn't be able to burn you down however hard they tried. But,
we also opened up fetch lands and traded them back in immediately because we could get 2 more booster packs for the fetch land price at the time. So that was a good deal, right?
Yes, we did do that. And then it was like open fetch lands, trade them back in, get packs, open an Electropotence, and be like, what does this get me? And they're
Lorthos,
like,
the Tiebringer again.
Wait, I can't trade the Electropotence in?
Mythic Octopus.
Yeah. You know, we also talk about this in the Magic the Gathering space. Let's just break the fourth wall here and talk about YouTube for a second. The biggest creator in Magic the Gathering doesn't even have 1 million subscribers. However, the game has, last I checked, like over 11 or 12 million players worldwide.
It's
so
somewhere in the trillions.
Yeah. Well, maybe in all of the different galaxies, sure. There are trillions of people that love Magic. No, you know, when you really think about like how few people engage with Magic the Gathering on YouTube versus how many people play it, it's really not astounding when you find other people that have differing views than what's on the YouTube internet version of Magic the Gathering, right?
No, not at all. And because of the cadence of products, you know, for us, that means an infinite stream of stuff to cover and make videos about and talk about. But I feel like the average person who casually enjoys MTG, has a few commander decks, does a draft every 2 or 3 months, plays a commander night once, twice a month, something like that, that person is not paying attention to literally every little piece of everything that comes out. They see, oh, there's a new set coming out. Let me glance at the precons. Oh, a dinosaur precon. I like dinosaurs. That's it. Then they go buy it and they're done and they play it. And occasionally they're like, oh, I drafted a dinosaur 2 years ago. I've had no place for it. I'll put it in the deck. And that is their experience. And that,
yeah,
I mean, it feels pure, feels more wholesome. We're the little goblins digging through every little tiny price hike, price down, reprint. That's what we do. But we're down in the burrows and the gutters trying to find the information for y'all. We don't have the average experience. And so I feel like just the part 1 of this video is going to be titled, I don't think the internet represents reality at all. And we're talking specifically about MTG. We're not using that as a blanket statement, even though it's probably also true in that case as well.
No, that's fair. You know, shout out to our friend Dom, and then we're going to get into this, but our Dom, pretty much our Dom, that's what we'll say.
He's our Dom.
He has, you know, in a lot of ways written off Magic, but then when Lord of the Rings came around, he went out and, you know, he swiped up all those decks. And earlier he was like, you know, wow, you know, Walking Dead coming to Magic, that's pretty stupid, you guys. Stranger Things coming to Magic, I don't know how I feel about that. Even had a great comment earlier, you know, like maybe a couple years ago, where he was like, I'm gonna tap 3 Pepsis and cast BMW the Ultimate Driving Machine and equip it to Count Chocula. Do you have any response? Now we are really there. Magic the Gathering is becoming the Fortnite of card games. Let's talk about how the community feels about not only that, but all the other stuff.
Are you looking to convert your collectible cards into cash effortlessly? Our partner Card Conduit offers an outstanding service that handles the entire selling process for you. Send in your cards and they take care of the grading, sorting, and selling. With competitive fees as low as 10% and a variety of payment options like ACH, PayPal, and Zelle, it's convenience at its best. They cater to both bulk submissions and high-value collections, ensuring your cards are evaluated accurately. And don't worry about the wait. You can expect a detailed report and prompt payment, usually within 2 weeks. Plus, they're equipped to handle international shipments as well. Join the many satisfied customers who've maximized their payouts with Card Conduit and let them turn your cards into cash today.
Yes, if you want to get rid of your singles and save your time, you can find the link to Card Conduit in the description of the video.
We've asked the patron community, we've asked the JAJAM community on YouTube. A lot of things repeat themselves. Obviously, there are concerns about the price increases. Really, the only thing I can even say to that is that, yeah, everything's going up in price. I'm not trying to defend MTG. I'm just trying to be like, it just so that's not immune to what's happening literally everywhere. I can't even go to Taco Bell.
Boxes of cereal.
I'm telling you, man, Taco Bell used to be like a $5 or $6 trip. Dude, that's what is locked in my head. Now that trip for a single person is like $12. Don't even get me started on McDonald's. It's ridiculous. One of the main ones that you hear constantly and that I've already mentioned is product fatigue. I think that this one's fair. I think that it has gotten to a ridiculous point. I think that it has gotten to a point that makes sense with the corporate kind of structure over there, and that they have a cash cow that they can just sell paper from for more than paper is worth. So that's
They're
pretty good
the
business.
closest to printing money, right? They're like the closest business to just literally printing money.
It is really close. It has gotta be. The speed with which new product comes out, new unmissable product, and I think that's where a big point of contention happens for us all subconsciously, is that it seems like they say one thing. They say it's not every product is for every person, and we don't necessarily expect you to keep up with it or purchase everything. But they also, with every single thing that is released, seem to have some sort of lottery card incentive, at least attempt to be tacked onto it, right?
I think so. You know, I mean, I'm looking at the secret lair. While you were saying that, I was like, I'm just going to pull this up and take a look. And I'm like, man, I haven't even got the Creep Show one, which is one that I want. And then I wanted Princess Bride. And I'm like, am I even going to get to these? And then I know that Ixalan is coming up and there's going to be Jurassic Park. And so, yeah, I mean, it really is like a lot of stuff, and you just have to pick and choose, because unless you're a whale with like a warehouse and you're just like, I will collect it all. I have a warehouse to put all of it in, because that's really what it would take if you want to collect all of the Magic the Gathering product, is maybe realistically an entire like 4-bedroom house just yourself.
Yeah, that could work. Sort of along the lines of the price increases of product is a lot of people now, they're saying we engage more by just buying singles. I used to go and buy packs. I used to go and do even drafts at the LGS more often, etc. But now, since everything has pretty much been pushed towards Commander, at least I'd say the majority of thought and advertisement and designing has been sort of pushed in the direction of Commander, you've got people who are able to stay more consistent with their deck. I think really their best strategy is probably, Jake, to try and like sell more precons so that people have stuff that they want to like upgrade and buy more singles for, because you kind of get locked in on a deck, and I pick through and see if there's a new card for a Commander deck in every set, and then I'm like, there's 1 or 0, and I move on. That's what if I wasn't covering it for the channel, I wouldn't dig any further than that, you know?
Right. And the Commander decks are actually pretty good value. You get a whole deck that's packed with synergy. It's designed by people that know how to design decks, and they know what good balance is. And so if you're onboarding, I mean, that's like a really good way to get into the game and then also save some money and have something that's semi-competitive. A lot of those decks, I would say they're like, 6s or 7s right out of the box. And so it's a pretty good experience as far as playing Commander. One thing I'll say is like, and I know this is a premium product, but Commander Masters, for example, that's a product that's like or I paid on a discount $8 for a pack of it, and then I opened like $2 worth of value. Those packs typically go for around like $15. I've seen them as high as like $18. And so who wants to pay $18 for a pack when you know that 90% of the cards in the set are probably bottoming out from people opening the packs anyway, and you can just go buy the singles that you want? Yeah, if you want to hit the Jeweled Lotus, if you want to hit the Crater Hoof and those kind of cards that are going to retain their price, you do need to go out and buy them. But for the most part, if you don't want to play with those sweaty cards, you could play Magic the Gathering on a budget, and there's no better time to do it. And so anybody buying singles, they're just doing what everybody should have been doing for pretty much ever.
You've got a double-edged sword, because you've got a ton of reprints that drive the value, but that perceived value, when it's a bunch of reprints, bottoms out really hard, especially by the time that card's on its 3rd or 4th reprint, especially in the variant era, when we've got base copy, base foil, foil etched, showcase foil, textured foil, surge foil on top of that, serialized surge foil, confetti on top of that. And so you've got a lot of perceived value going into opening those packs, but that's all coming from scarcity of low played, mid played cards. And then when that scarcity is satisfied, goodbye price on it. You're not suddenly busting it out. And I'm not saying that it always has to be that, But if you're going to price it at a premium, let's get some premium cards in there, you know. I like the interesting dichotomy going on in the community right now, because you've got people who are like Ryan Bollinger 1759's comment here. If you just buy singles and play Commander, it's a fantastic experience, especially with all of the phenomenal reprints lately. So boom, there you go. But then you've got people on the side of like, well, they're selling out to make these profits and make all these different crossovers and IP connections. All of that is just like super selling out. I guess it's like some people have a moral stance against a company like this selling out or combining something. You know, there was a rich history and lore, so you can't just be like, well, Fortnite did it, because Fortnite had no lore basically. I think they've definitely woven it in now as the game has become more popular. There's a big community that likes the story of that game, but at first that wasn't what it was about, right? They tossed the IPs in there, but Magic has a big history that people seem to be passionate about protecting, I guess.
Yeah, you know, it's really interesting you bring that up too, because I was just talking to somebody about this, how, you know, if you're interested in Magic, maybe, you know, when it first came out, you might have been interested in something like D&D. You might have been interested in just like kind of like, you know, fantasy in general. Outside of that, Magic, before all of these crossovers and stuff, there was no sci-fi. There was no like, you know, horror kind of stuff. I mean, there were scary images and those kind of things, but there is no Marvel or Jurassic Park. You know, we talk about this all the time. Those products, would you rather have a game that, you know, they start a Jurassic Park card game and then all of a sudden, oh, you know, we're out of Jurassic Park lore. Really only so much we could do. We did all the dinosaurs.
And they have to invent an entirely new game system that has to like specifically avoid pieces that MTG has protected by law. And I'm not saying that that's impossible, but like
then it ends up making it worse most of the time, because they come up with something like, oh, in our game we'll have dice. And then they have to collect.
You got to collect 7 counters on this card and 8 counters on this card, and you're trying to get to 6 counters total. That's how you win.
Yeah.
It's just like, there's a couple too many pieces here, my friend. But that's just a couple that we're talking about specifically.
Yeah, it just makes more sense to put that IP in a game that's proven, that's withstood the test of time. I don't think this is even something that Magic the Gathering intended to happen all along. I think this is an opportunity that has presented itself because other people see, wow, you know, we can get some hype for our IP by partnering with Magic. Obviously, money is part of this equation as well. But yeah, I mean, it brings more players to the game. And as long as you're okay with, you know, playing against some stuff that's from not Magic, then you're going to be fine for the most part.
On our community page, Veggie Dog replied to the original question, said, I love playing with my friends at the bar on Thursdays. Besides that, I buy maybe $20 of singles a month. And I think that is the average person. People saying, I'm overall fine with everything. Daniel Kubicek 1323 said, the release pace is insane, but lately I've been liking what they've been offering. Wish they would throttle back, but I'll enjoy the ride until they crash. And so I think on average, people are generally just like, man, it's getting crazy over there, but whatever. I like Warhammer, don't like Stranger Things. I love Marvel, really looking forward to that. And so I think that's sort of where all this is aimed, Jake, is since they announced Marvel, I feel like something has happened, or it has heralded the arrival of something that is yet to come, that people aren't really, that they're not really identifying yet. But we're talking about the biggest IP, y'all. And we are talking about people who are like, oh, they've got Marvel now? The amount of new people that are going to be accessing and coming into this game in the next 2 years, specifically when that one arrives, is going to be unbelievable. I don't mean this with like any rudeness at all, but for every one of you that are like, I'm done, never doing it again, I'm boycotting, 20 more are going to walk in the door. And so that thought combined with the poll results, Jake, with Magic the Gathering, would you say you're overall negative or positive right now? 87% of respondents, obviously, I still play. That 87% is split nearly down the middle of positive or negative on the game as a whole. But
Yeah.
we continue to play. And so complainers going to complain.
That's right. I mean, just filling in this poll for everybody, 5,900 votes, 8% came in at negative, and I don't play anymore, when asked how they feel about Magic.
I hate it and I'm done.
8% said negative, and I don't play anymore. 4% said positive, but I don't play anymore. Then you had 43% come in and say negative, but I still play, and 44% said positive, and I still play. So even though people feel negative, they still are drawn to the game. We call this the MTG curse mark, which is once you've played it, you can never get rid of it. It will burn. You might take a hiatus, but you will always come back to it. And I do believe that Joel is correct, that there are going to be a lot of people that come to Magic when Marvel comes to Magic as well. It's going to be a big moment, because there were a ton of people that were saying, well, Lorcana is going to get through, you know, their Disney characters that, you know, let's say the kids Disney characters. I'm not going to say it like that. I'm sure people are going to be like, oh my God, it's for adults as well. But the kid friendly Disney stuff. Whereas when you think about Avengers, you have the Hulk smashing people into a pulp. You have people getting shot and blown up. It's a lot less like Mickey Mouse, right?
Sure.
There were a lot of people that were like, well, Lorcana is clearly going to have those characters in their back pocket. But now the question is, like, are they, you know, or is it just going to be the kind of thing where they go over, they live in MTG, because that's much more of a world. You know, we've seen cards where people, devils are holding, you know, hands that are ripped off of people. We've seen art of people being like stoned to death in MTG. So it makes a lot more sense to have that more adult content live in the Magic the Gathering world, multiverse.
For
rather.
sure. I think they can make Marshmallow Marvel fine for Lorcana and play down. You know, I mean, they don't have to talk about the 2 or 3 years where Tony Stark's main problem in the comics was he was an alcoholic. You know, that's not going to be in the Lorcana version. We're saving the alcoholism for the Magic kids. That's the ones who want to play with the alcoholism cards. I just think that in general, that's going to be a point of explosion for this game that just seems to keep growing, even though it outperforms itself every quarter, it seems.
We've been sponsored by Dragon Shield for a while, and we just want to tell you about some of the best sleeves in the game. We have been using Dragon Shields personally for more than 10 years. It might be actually around like 13 or 14 years, but you know what? More than 10 sounds good. We've picked our brand and we know what we stand behind. And if you like to protect your collectible cards, go with Dragon Shield. They've been great.
That's right. I used them in college and I still use them, and I have a kid now. That's how long I've been using them. Make sure you click the link in our description and tell them Jake and Joel sent you.
As somebody who's been collecting for a very long time, in general, I feel pretty good about it. I am upset that a lot of my cards have lost their value, but I think that with so many cards and power creep being printed, that was kind of an inevitability. So I really only have myself to blame for that. I probably could have shipped those cards off ages ago and made money on them if that was my intention, but I guess it really wasn't. My cards are just part of my collection, and like everything, the price of those ebbs and flows. A lot of the reserve list stuff is still intact, and thankfully, because hopefully we don't get any more products like 30th anniversary edition. Other than that, I'm fine with all of the crossovers. I'm fine with all of the different products. I've entered a new phase of MTG collecting where I no longer feel FOMO ever. There's certain times where, you know, if they printed a secret lair from the Alien universe, yes, I would buy it very quickly, and I would probably buy an extra copy of it just to have, just in case. For me, I'm not really at the point where I'm like, man, you know, I really need to buy this. I really need to buy that. I know that it's probably going to be available if I absolutely have to have it.
As a Commander player, casual arena drafter, and singles purchaser, I don't buy sealed product. I've never been happier with the game. It seems like Commander design keeps getting pushed. The limited environments of the sets have been pretty fantastic. I know we've gotten some good feedback on like standard has been dope, limited has been dope, and I would agree. I use my little draft tokens on MTG Arena and experience it. And since we've been to 2 conventions this year where Eldraine was the set across both of them, it was just like a very Eldraine draft for me in the last like quarter of this year. I've just been doing that a ton. A lot
of Eldraine.
Oh, seriously, man. Lots of aura enchantments.
But what's cool about Eldraine is it came with that one slot where we get a ton of these enchantments, which are really good for decks. And right now, sure, a ton of them are dirt cheap.
Exactly.
But where are those going to be in like, you know, a year or 2 years when people want those enchantments? Maybe they do go up in price.
Yeah, for sure. I think late in, you know, a few years from now, Jake, when we're making out the timeline of the whole game, I think that we will have had the variant era from Eldraine on, but somewhere in the last like 36 months, 24 months, we have had a shift into the reprint era. And the last year and a half roughly has just been insanity for reprints. And so I'm hope they pull back on that and give collections a little bit of value, because the value is still the underpinnings of the entire game, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. And so I think that it's an important aspect for them to keep really available for players to engage with if they want to. The Marvel thing has me more excited than anything on the horizon ever has. I'm a big Marvel fanboy, as you can tell. And so I definitely, for that one, all my rules are out the window. I'm saving toward it. I want to get a case of collectors. I want to open whatever the serialized stuff is. I want to go hunting for it. Like, that's going to be where I just completely 180 my entire mantra of MTG and do that thing, because I just can't wait for it. But yeah, in the meantime,
imagine if Thanos, what if there's one of each stone, dude?
Oh man,
serialized one of each stone.
Yeah, bro. You already we can't get sexual here at the end of the video. Catch me buying a new pre-con every 3 sets or so, having a fantastic time playing that, playing different events at conventions, playing on Arena, talking about it. I'm obsessed with the game. I love it. I know I said we wouldn't, you know, be keeping up with all of this if we didn't have a channel, but that's just reality. I would still be watching very closely. I might not be like subscribed to all the MTG news minute alerts so that I can run and make a video with Jake immediately, but it's something that I'm really passionate about. And so personally, I'm here. I love it. I'm ready for the next couple of years. I'm ready to go get the 1/1 Infinity Stones. Please. So now we toss it to you. You've heard all of our thoughts. You've heard summarized versions of the community's thoughts. What are your thoughts? We want to hear them down in the comments below.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us. And thank you again to our sponsors, Card Conduit and Dragon Shield. And shout out to Moxfield. That's a great spot to build your decks.
Absolutely. We stream 9:30 p.m. EST every Wednesday night. Come and hang out. Maybe we can talk about this live. We will catch you on a flip.